Good day. The paranormal genre. You got your sparkly vampires, you got your stalker werewolves, and you got your drunken mummies. Not all of the paranormal fiction genre is for the 13-year-old girl, however. In fact, there are a few writers that try and succeed in making vampires and werewolves cool and scary. One such writer is my personal favorite in the genre, Larry Correia. I reviewed some years ago his first novel, Monster Hunter International. In that world, all monsters, including Cthulhu, exist, but they are kept under wraps by the governments of the world in order to fight the foul beasts of the night. An intrepid few push back against them by forming private military companies and shooting werewolves, vampires, ghouls, revenants, zombies, gnomes, and all other assorted griblets in the face. It was a novel written for people like me who like guns and fighting. The novel introduced the character Owen Zastava Pitt. Gotta love them SKSs. It showed him entering a large and scary world. Understand that in the MHI world, the events of the classic werewolf film Dog Soldiers is a Tuesday for the men and women of Monster Hunter International. After Larry Correia shilled his book on gun forums such as AR15.com, Larry started the long road straight to the top. Eventually, other writers wanted to work with this up-and-coming young whippersnapper, and one of those was... oh, John Ringo, no. John Ringo is an inexplicably popular writer that puts out trash. His works feature bland Gary stews and fairly pedestrian plots that get hijacked by his political fervor. But he brings the money, and Larry Correia, being a businessman, wanted him some. And by all accounts, he got it. Larry allowed, oh, John Ringo, no, to write in his universe. And so here we have Monster Hunter Memoirs Grunge. It would be released in 2016, and why in the holy name of Talos, Sigmar, and Batman does this book have a 4.7 on Goodreads? What I'm about to tell you, dear listener, is a tale most horrid, a tale of a book that I went into thinking it would be good, but it turned out to be the worst fan fiction trash I've ever willingly read. Let's crack open this book and take a look at why the meme is, oh, John Ringo, no. Monster Hunter Memoirs Grunge takes place in the 1980s and features the standard John Ringo protagonist. This novel, like many other far superior Monster Hunter books, take place from the first-person perspective. This trash is supposed to be the protagonist's actual writings. Our hero, ladies and gentlemen, is named Chadwick Gardner. Yes, his name is Chad. He's super smart and super athletic. As a kid, he had an inattentive father and a woke mother. Chad must hide his greatness from his evil woke mother. He is the captain of the football team and the chess team simultaneously because he's so good. Eventually, he leaves home to join the military, but he is so smart that he has to hide his smartiness from the recruiters so he could be a reasonable Marine. He then faces some desert spiders in the Middle East and then gets exploded in a barracks explosion. And then goes to heaven. I did not make that up. Ringo did. In the book, the protagonist goes to heaven and is given a mission from God to fight monsters. When he gets back to life, he goes to the hospital, and then his woke mother tells him that he should have died. In the Monster Hunter universe, if you fight monsters, you gotta keep it secret, otherwise a big man named Franks might kill you. Or a member of the shadowy Monster Control Bureau might make you look like a nut and discredit you. If you know that monsters exist, you might be able to join a monster hunting PMC, and eventually Chad does join the Monster Hunter International PMC. MHI has a bunch of teams throughout the United States, and Chad goes to a place that's half as pretentious as he is, Seattle. In Seattle, he engages in sexy time with many females and shoots a werewolf on a morning jog. In the MHI universe, werewolves usually take a team of people to kill. Then Chad gets a magical katana sword and he uses it to kill a vampire. Not just any vampire, a MILF vampire, and the book goes out of its way to mention that. Vampires are usually high-tier boss enemies that take an entire infantry regiment to take out. And yes, this does happen in MHI Book 1, but in this book, Chad is such a chatty man that he's able to kill a vampire in one hit with his magical sword. And really, the book just goes on like that. And, you know, it's little vignettes of Chad wanking in our faces. Gary stews are bad because they are boring and can do no wrong. And they are off-putting because they do all the super amazing bestest ever stuff, and they come off as narcissistic, conceited assholes, and Chad is right up there with the worst. An argument tried to be made that the reason people hated Ray was that she was female, and if she had been male, it would have been okay. No, as for me, Chad is actually worse than Ray. I hate him even more. 4.7 on Goodreads? Really? Stay away from this one, folks. The days when Johnny Ringo could write are long over. John Ringo. Who is he? What is he? John Ringo belongs to the writers at Baen Books. Baen Books purports to be a counter to the woke literature that permeates today's culture. They're not really conservative or Republican or any such political craptrap. Instead, they feature people who are a more libertarian bent, and Eric Flint, one of their main draws, was a follower of the Mighty Marx. Sadly, Baen Books fall into the trap of being almost as bad as woke literature that they purport to stand against. Baen Books usually feature the same kind of characters and situations as the woke media does, aka bland Gary Stews or Mary Sues and uninspired and pretentious plots. And, you know, the greatest of all the Baen writers is John Ringo, and he just checks the same box in each bloody series he tries to write. Now, I first came upon Johnny Boy in the far-off days of 2007 when I read his novel Into the Looking Glass. It had cool characters, a neat plot, and had a scene where Southern gun owners fought Falzinos. Looking back at it now, I can see the antecedents of what was to come, but thankfully, they weren't fully formed yet. The main character, William Weaver, was a super smart scientist, but was not a super warrior and didn't even know how to shoot a gun. But by the end of the book, he could control a mech suit with minimal training. And then the very next book had the cool William Weaver replaced with, oh, John Ringo, no, a fresh-faced 20-something named Two Gun Berg. He was a super smart, super tough Marine, and he used two .50 caliber Barrett rifles as pistols. With the mech suit, thankfully. Other books written by John Ringo, such as The Last Centurion, show that he really hated old people, as the Marine character in that book literally says old people are worthless. And in another book of his, he has aliens drop a virus that kills only the elderly and the stupid. Basically, John Ringo is every bit as bad as a woke writer, even if in one of his early books he did have a bunch of Southern gun owners fighting Xenos. Now, going back to Chad, what I didn't mention is the sheer number of sex stuff that Ringo added to Monster Hunter Grunge. Larry Correia even kind of complained about this in the foreword. Larry Correia himself has characters getting busy off screen where it belongs, and his characters never brag about the sexy times. Ringo and Chatty Boy can't shut up about it. A kindly, hot blonde helps Chad with his car, and then they have the sexy. And later in the book, Chad says she can suck the chrome from a bumper. Our hero, ladies and gentlemen. Chad also poses as a famous anime voice actor to get busy with two girls in a sushi bar. Not actually in the sushi bar, they leave, but I wouldn't put it past him to try to do that. All the while, Chad is meant to be a devout Catholic. He addresses this and basically says, yeah, God's totally cool with it, yo. Oh, John Ringo, no. And John Ringo has a number of major Monster Hunter events happen in his book that Chad does not deserve to be a part of. Kind of like Ray in Star Wars. Unlike with Ray, Larry Correia got the last laugh. In a later Monster Hunter book by Larry Correia, the main character, Owen Zustava Pitt, calls Chad a weeb and really doubts that he did a fraction of the stuff he says he did. Karma's a bitch, ain't it? A cool dude doing cool things is not an example of a Gary Stew. Kirk, Han the Man Solo, Batman, Iron Man, and Luke earn everything they get. All those characters just started out as normal guys that worked hard to become super awesome, and they got their asses kicked all the time and had to work with other characters to save the day. And Gary Stew needs no one to help them and wins no matter what, and never gets their asses kicked, and they can even meet God, apparently. The Mary Sue is so bad because it shows that the writer has an inferiority complex, and they try to imagine something that they want to be. An individual with no flaws that's perfect at everything. A character with no flaws can have no growth, and a character with no growth is a character that is boring and adds nothing to the adventure. Chad, and by extension the other Ringo books, are a window into a man that feels weak and thus writes planks of wood to make himself feel strong. And due to this, I do not recommend this novel or any of the other ones by John Ringo except for perhaps Into the Looking Glass and to a similar extent, Von Neumann's War. Although how much of that was written by John Ringo or Travis S. Taylor, that's up to you to decide. In any event, I am General Lotz, and I'm wishing you good Monster Hunter, Nemesis, and good Monster Hunter Files, Fever, or whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and please consider leaving a like or a comment, as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.